Okay, let's unpack this. I want you to close your eyes for a second, just for a moment. Picture Scotland. What is the image that immediately floods your brain? What do you see?
Well, I can tell you exactly what the data says people see. It's a very specific, almost a curated montage.
Right. It's probably a lone bagpiper. He's standing on some misty ridge, maybe wearing a kilt that's blowing perfectly in the wind.
Of course.
And there's a crumbling castle, right? It's silhouetted against a moody gray sky.
Always a moody sky.
Always. And then you cut to the interior shot. It's a cozy pub, low ceilings, a roaring peak fire, maybe a golden dram of whiskey sitting there on the table.
That's the one. It is a mental image of serenity, of history, and this deep, quiet atmosphere. It's Outlander. It's Braveheart. It is an incredibly potent brand.
It really is.
I mean, Scotland has done a better job than perhaps any other nation on Earth at exporting that specific romantic identity.
But here's where it gets really interesting and, to be honest, a little bit terrifying. If you are planning a trip there in August 2026.
The peak of peak.
Exactly. And specifically, if you are one of the, thousands of people trying to combine the Edinburgh Fringe with a Highland road trip, that romantic mental image you have, it is going to collide very, very violently with a logistical buzzsaw.
A logistical buzzsaw is the perfect way to describe it. It really is. Because the reality of August 2026 is not serene at all. It is a high-friction environment.
High friction. I like that.
We're looking at a travel landscape that will, it will chew up your wallet and spit out your itinerary if you aren't incredibly careful.
And that is exactly what we are diving into today. We are looking at what a lot of the sources are calling the Scottish duality. It's this massive conflict between the dream version of the trip, the one you see on Instagram, and the actual reality on the ground. We've got a stack of articles here, forum discussions, logistical breakdowns.
And our mission for this deep dive is to really analyze what we're calling the combo trip. This is the white whale of Scottish tourism.
The white whale.
It is. It's the attempt to do the festival and Highland escape in a single 10-day block. You are trying to mash together two diametrically opposed experiences, the world's largest, most chaotic arts festival, and a rugged, desolate wilderness trek.
The vibe shift alone is enough to give you whiplash. Think about it. You might be crying laughing at a stand-up comedy show in some damp, crowded cave at 2 in the morning in Edinburgh.
Right, surrounded by sweaty people.
Totally. Drinking overpriced lager from a plastic cup. And then, literally 6 hours later, you could be standing in total deafening silence on a Munro that's a mountain over 3,000 feet, watching the mist roll off a peak that's older than human history.
It is a study in extremes.
Yeah.
And that emotional whiplash is exactly why people want to do it. It feels epic. It sounds epic.
Right.
But the data we have for 2026 suggests that this is a vacation you can just wing.
No.
It requires a military operation mindset. I'm not kidding. We are dealing with severe budget constraints, incredibly challenging geography, and even biological threats.
Oh, do not worry. We are definitely deep diving into the insects later. The biological threat is very real. But first, we need to answer the central question of this entire deep dive. Is the stress of combining these two massive things actually worth it?
Yeah.
Or should you just pick one?
It's the million-dollar question. And to answer it, we have to look at these three major surprises that kept popping up again and again in the source material. These are things that completely contradict the sort of common wisdom about travel.
Okay, what's the first one?
First, the best food in Scotland right now probably isn't haggis or fish and chips. It's actually Indian fusion, and specifically in Glasgow.
Which is a huge curveball for people expecting just, meat and potato.
A massive curveball.
Yeah.
Second, despite what you might think about European travel being all about the rails, trains are actually the enemy on this specific route. For this trip, yes, cars are a necessary evil, but they come with their own whole set of nightmares.
And the third one?
The third is that getting a dinner reservation in Edinburgh or Portree in August 2026 is currently, and this is statistically true, harder than getting your flight ticket in the first place.
That puts the demand into perspective. So let's set the scene properly. It is August 2026. The Outlander effect hasn't faded. If anything, it's compounded by this massive surge of what people are calling TikTok travel.
Right.
Everyone wants that moody, cinematic shot of them walking alone in the wilderness.
And that leads us directly into the first trap we need to talk about, the algorithm trap.
This is something I see on my feed constantly. You just scroll past these videos of Scotland, and they are always, always the same.
Always.
It's a slow-motion pan of a solitary figure walking through Glencoe. The lighting is perfect, that kind of golden hour light. The audio is just the wind and maybe like a sad violin track.
It looks spiritual, it looks profound.
It looks like you are the only person on Earth.
Right. It sells isolation. It sells serenity. But the reality check here is absolutely crucial. The source material points out, again and again, that the audio in those clips is stripped out for a very good reason.
Which is?
If you were actually standing there holding the camera, just out of frame, there are likely 45 tour buses parked in a giant lot.
And a queue for a parking meter. A long queue.
Exactly. It's a crowded car park. You have people shouting, car doors slamming, maybe a drone buzzing overhead like a giant angry mosquito.
So the peace and quiet is a lie.
The visual isolation is a framing trick. It's a total illusion. And this disconnect, this is what leads to what we're calling the bipolar itinerary.
Meaning you're swinging wildly between these two extremes.
Yes. You are moving from literally the most crowded square mile in Europe, which is Edinburgh during the Fringe, to these supposedly desolate landscapes in the Highlands. And because of those TikTok videos, the expectation many travelers have, let's call it the spontaneous Scot fantasy.
Okay, I like that. The spontaneous Scot.
Is that they can just drive north. They imagine they'll drive until they get tired. They'll see a cute little cottage with a vacancy sign in the window, knock on the door, and get a room for the night.
That sounds lovely, though. That's the dream, isn't it? Just drifting through the Highlands, finding a cozy spot, meeting some charming locals.
It sounds lovely, but in 2026, that fantasy is a recipe for homelessness. And I am not exaggerating. If your accommodation isn't booked 6 months out, and for places like the Isle of Skye, it's more like 9 months.
9 months.
You are not finding a room. You are sleeping in your rental car. Period.
Okay, but worst case scenario, sleeping in the car for a night isn't the end of the world, is it? You find a nice lay-by, recline the seat. It's an adventure.
But here is where it gets legally complicated. The rules have changed. Sleeping in your car in a lay-by is now largely illegal in many parts of the Highlands.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there has been a massive crackdown on wild camping and overnight parking without permits, mainly due to over-tourism, and frankly, people leaving a mess. The police actively patrol these spots, so you can't just pull over and nap anymore. You risk getting a fine and moved on in the middle of the night.
So the spontaneous Scot fantasy is a myth.
It is a dangerous myth. It will ruin your trip. You need a rigid, detailed plan. This isn't a trip for the free-spirited. It's a trip for the spreadsheet enthusiast.
Okay, point taken. The spontaneous Scot is dead. Long live the spreadsheet Scot. So let's walk through that plan. Let's say we've done the prep, we've booked everything 9 months ago, and we are arriving in Edinburgh. We're entering segment 1, the Edinburgh Assault.
And assault is the right word for the sensory experience. But let's start with a logistical win because we want to be helpful here.
Please.
You land at Edinburgh Airport. You've been on a plane for 7, maybe 10 hours. You're tired. You have bags. The instinct for almost every international traveler is to grab an Uber or a taxi.
Sure, it's the default move. You just want to get to your hotel, dump your stuff.
It's a rookie mistake. It's the worst thing you can do. The data shows the tram line is the absolute MVP of Edinburgh transport.
It's tram, really.
Without a doubt. It takes you directly from the airport terminal right to Princess Street in the city center. It costs under a tenner. It takes about 35 minutes. It's clean. And crucially, it is reliable. It has its own track.
Whereas a taxi
puts you in the same gridlock as everyone else. Edinburgh in August is a parking lot with cobblestones. You could be sitting in a 50-pound Uber watching the meter tick up as the tram just breezes right past you.
Okay, so you take the tram, you get off on Princess Street, and you look up. This is my favorite part of the trip, obviously, the first time you see the city. Describe that first impression for someone who hasn't been there.
It is genuinely unique in the world. Edinburgh is a vertical city. The old town is essentially stacked on top of itself. It looks like a medieval Gotham City.
That's a great description.
You have these towering black stone tenements that seem to just grow out of the rock, and then the castle looming over everything on top of that extinct volcano. It feels ancient, imposing, and, yeah, slightly Gothic.
And the noise. Because August isn't a quiet month.
It's a wall of sound. And it's not just city noise. In August, you have street performers, buskers on every single corner. You have promoters shouting and trying to hand you flyers for their shows.
Great comedy in a basement. My show starts in 5 minutes.
Exactly, that times 1,000. You've got the rumble of double-decker buses. You've got bagpipes echoing off the stone. It's wonderfully chaotic.
And the smell. I always tell people about the smell. It's not a bad smell, but it's very, very specific.
It is. It's a very distinct mix of hops from the breweries. That sort of yeasty, malty smell combined with the fried dough and vinegar from all the food trucks.
The donut stalls.
And then underneath all of that sharp, cold scent of wet stone. Even on a sunny day in summer, that damp stone smell is the signature of Edinburgh.
It's total sensory overload. And then you have the Fringe vibe itself. For people who don't know, the Fringe isn't just one venue like a concert hall.
No, that's the magic of it. The Fringe is the world's largest arts festival. And the term venue is used very, very loosely.
Right.
Every available space in the city becomes a venue. A church basement, the back room of a pub, a shipping container set up in a university square, a lecture hall. Everything is repurposed for art.
So you get this incredible collision of high and low culture happening on the same street.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can walk down the Royal Mile and pass an opera singer performing a beautiful aria, and right next to her is a drum circle. And next to them is a student theater troupe dressed as vegetables promoting a play about climate change. It is vibrant, it is messy, and it is absolutely electric.
But eventually the sensory overload peaks. You've done the city, you've seen the shows, and now your itinerary says it's time for the escape. This is segment 2, the Highland Shift and the roads.
And this transition is jarring, physically and mentally. You're usually driving out of the city, navigating the morning gridlock of the M8 motorway or the crossing over the Forth Bridge. It feels like any other city commute.
Standard traffic jam.
Yes. And then you hit what's called the Highland Boundary Fault.
No, this is an actual geological line, right? It's not just a name.
It's a real thing. It cuts across Scotland diagonally. And when you cross it, the world literally changes. Geologically, everything shifts under your wheels.
It's wild. The rolling hills of the lowlands suddenly become these jagged, dramatic peaks. The light seems to get softer. I always feel like the green gets more intense.
It does.
It's like a heavier, deeper green than you see anywhere else in the world.
It's a stunningly dramatic landscape, absolutely.
Yeah.
But here is the tragedy of it all. The driver usually misses most of it.
Because they're too busy staring at the road, white-knuckled.
Because the driver is experiencing a massive cortisol spike. Their stress levels are through the roof. We have to talk about the single-track roads. This is the thing that breaks people.
Okay, let's explain single track for our North American listeners, because it sounds like a train term, but it's very much a road term.
Correct. A single-track road is a two-way highway. Traffic goes in both directions. But it is only wide enough for one single car. Not one lane each way, one lane total. Maybe 8 to 10 feet of asphalt.
But traffic is coming towards you.
Yes. And the whole system relies entirely on these things called passing places. These are little bulges or laybys carved into the side of the road every few hundred yards. The rules are very strict. If you see a car coming, the person who is closest to a passing place on their side must pull over and wait.
It sounds simple in theory. Be polite, pull over, give a little wave.
In theory, it's a beautiful, polite dance. In practice, for a tourist, it's terrifying. Because you aren't just meeting other nervous tourists in rental cars. You are meeting locals who drive these roads at 60 miles an hour. You are meeting delivery vans. And then there's the ultimate boss fight. The logging truck.
The logging truck scenario sounds like something from a horror movie.
Okay, picture this. You are driving a rental car you aren't totally comfortable with, probably a bit bigger than you're used to. You're on a road that winds along the edge of a lock. On your left is a solid rock wall. On your right is a 50-foot drop straight into the cold, dark water.
No guardrail, of course.
Of course not. And suddenly, around a blind corner, comes a massive timber truck, fully loaded, taking up the entire road, and it's not slowing down.
And the nearest passing place is behind you?
Exactly. So now you have to reverse. You have to put the car in reverse and back up perhaps 100 yards around a curve with no visibility, while a 60-ton truck idles impatiently in front of you.
That is high-stress driving. My palms are sweating just thinking about it.
It is. And this brings us to a critical trap that ruins trips before they even leave the airport parking lot. What we call rental car roulette.
This is a massive issue for Americans specifically, right?
Huge. In North America, but 95% of cars are automatic. You put it in D for drive and you go. In the UK, manual transmission, a stick shift, is still the standard. It's the default, cheaper option.
But when you book online, you can select automatic. You tick the box.
You can select it, but rental agencies in the UK are notorious for running out of their limited automatic inventory during peak season. You arrive at the desk, your reservation in hand, and the agent gives you a sympathetic look and says, "I am so sorry, the automatic Ford Focus you booked hasn't been returned yet. But good news, we've upgraded you to a manual BMW for the same price."
And if you can't drive stick.
And you are stranded. You are literally stuck at the airport. And even if you think you can drive stick, maybe you drove a manual Jeep in college 20 years ago, Scotland is not the place to relearn. Remember those hills we talked about?
Oh, God. A hill start on a rainy 20% gradient with a line of traffic behind you.
Exactly. You will burn out the clutch, you will stall in front of that logging truck, and your vacation will turn into an absolute nightmare.
So what is the fix? How do you guarantee an automatic and avoid this whole situation?
There is a hack, and it's surprisingly simple, and it works every time. Book electric vehicle, an EV.
Why does that help?
Because EVs are, by their very engineering definition, automatic. They don't have a traditional gearbox. You cannot get a manual Tesla or a Polestar. It doesn't exist. If you book an EV, you are bypassing the transmission lottery entirely. You are guaranteed an automatic.
But then aren't you just trading one anxiety for another? Range anxiety? I mean, the Highlands seem remote. Where do you charge the thing?
That was a valid fear 5, even 3 years ago. But as of 2026, the charging network in Scotland is actually surprisingly decent. It's better than in many rural parts of the U.S. Most hotels have chargers now, the distilleries have chargers, the ferry terminals have chargers. It's a safety net to ensure you don't get stuck grinding gears on a mountain pass.
That is a solid, actionable tip. Okay, let's talk money, because we hinted at the start that this trip is a wallet killer. We need a proper financial deep dive.
We do. We need to talk about the tourist tax and general inflation. Prices in 2026 have settled somewhat from the crazy post-pandemic spikes, but for a tourist in Scotland in August, they are still eye-watering. So we've broken down the daily costs for a 10-day trip into 3 distinct tiers to show you exactly where the money goes.
Let's start at the bottom. Tier 1, the backpacker scrapper. This is the student, the gap year traveler, someone on a really tight budget.
This is the struggle tier, and I mean struggle. You are fighting to keep this under £120 per person per day.
Wait. 120 pounds a day is the struggle budget. That sounds incredibly high for backpacking. I used to backpack in Europe on like $30 a day.
Not in Edinburgh in August 2026. The inflation is almost entirely in the accommodation. A single bunk in a hostel dorm a bed in a room with 7 snoring strangers is costing between £60 and £80 a night during the festival.
80 pounds for a bunk bed. That is just painful.
It eats up nearly your whole daily budget before you've even had breakfast. So your diet completely changes. You are not eating in restaurants or even pubs. You are subsisting on the Tesco meal deal.
An absolute British cultural institution. For those who don't know, you have to explain the meal deal.
It's a supermarket combo. You get a sandwich, a snack like crisps, or a chocolate bar and a drink, all for a set price. It used to be £3. In 2026, it's probably closer to £4.50 or £5. But it's calorie dense and it's cheap.
So you're living on sandwiches?
Sandwiches and Greg's sausage rolls. That becomes your fuel. You're spending maybe £15 a day on food just so you can afford the bed. And for transport, forget trains, you are on the CityLink buses, which are slower but much, much cheaper.
Okay, that sounds grim. Let's move up to Tier 2, the comfort seeker. This is probably most of our listeners. A couple, maybe in their mid-30s, they want a nice time. They don't want to sleep in a dorm.
This is the mid-range.
Yeah.
And for this, you are looking at a budget of £350 to £450 per couple per day.
Wow. So that's roughly a 4,000-pound trip for 10 days, not including flights.
Exactly. It's a significant chunk of change. And the bulk of that money is going to accommodation again. A standard 3-star hotel in Edinburgh, we're not talking fancy, just a clean room with a private bathroom, is running £250 to £350 a night. A decent bed and breakfast in the Highlands is easily £180.
So your 10-day accommodation bill is pushing $3,000.
At least. For food, you're eating pub dinners, burgers, fish and chips, which will run you about £25 for a main course. You might stretch for one nice seafood lunch in Oban or Portree. And then you have your rental car, a compact SUV, and you have to factor in gas, which is expensive, around £1.60 per liter. It all adds up incredibly fast.
And then there's Tier 3, the succession style, the luxury traveler.
The sky is the limit here. You're at £1,500 plus per day, easily. You're staying at the iconic hotels, the Balmoral in Edinburgh, Gleneagles out in Perthshire. But the key difference here isn't just the thread count on the sheets, it's insulation.
Insulation, you mean from the cold?
No, insulation from the friction. At this tier, you are paying for a private driver. You are insulating yourself from the stress of the single-track roads. You aren't reversing the car. Your driver, a lovely man named Hamish, is doing it for you while you sip complimentary water and look at the view.
Ah, I see. You're buying your way out of the hassle.
Exactly. You're dining at Michelin-star restaurants where the table was booked for you 6 months ago. You are essentially buying a frictionless, seamless version of Scotland.
So looking at those numbers, especially in the mid-range, where is the value? Because paying £350 for a pretty standard 3-star hotel sounds like objectively bad value for money.
It is terrible value. The accommodation is firmly in the bad value column. You are paying Ritz-Carlton prices for what is essentially premier in quality, simply because of supply and demand. The infrastructure just can't handle the August volume.
So what's the good value? Where do you feel like your money is well spent?
The food. I really believe this. The culinary scene in Scotland is severely underrated. If you go to a place on the coast like Oban and order hand-dived scallops that were in the sea that morning, or you eat venison that was shot on a hill right next to the restaurant, the quality is world-class. You absolutely get what you pay for on the plate.
And I'd argue the access is good value, too. Seeing a world-class comedy show for £15, or hiking up Arthur's Seat for free and getting that incredible view of the city, the landscape itself doesn't charge admission.
That's a great point. The experiences are high value. It's the infrastructure to support those experiences that's where the price gouging happens.
So we know it's expensive, we know it's stressful. How do we make sure we don't mess it up? We need a strategy section. What are the big fundamental traps that people fall into when they're planning this thing?
Okay. Trap number 1 is the hub and spoke fallacy. This is by far the most common planning mistake we see in the forums.
Explain that. What's the hub and what are the spokes?
This is when people look at a map of Scotland, they see it looks pretty small compared to, say, Texas or California, and they think, oh, this is easy. I'll just base myself in Edinburgh for the whole 10-day trip and do day trips out to the Highlands.
It makes sense on paper. You only have to unpack once. You keep your hotel room. You don't have to lug your bags around.
It seems convenient, but it fails spectacularly due to geography and, crucially, road speed. Scotland is a deceptive country on a map.
Yeah.
It takes 3 to 4 hours just to reach the start of the good stuff. Places like Glencoe, the Isle of Skye, or Torridon.
So a day trip becomes a whole lot of math.
It becomes a commute, a miserable one. If you try to do Skye as a day trip from Edinburgh, you are spending 10 to 12 hours in a vehicle to spend maybe 1 hour looking at a mountain. You are just driving. You'll see more of the A82 motorway than the actual Highlands.
That sounds absolutely miserable. So the fix is to move your base.
The fix is to act like a shark. You have to keep moving forward. Stay in Edinburgh for the festival portion, then physically move your base. Drive to Fort William or Inverness or a town on Skye, and stay there for a few nights. Do not backtrack.
Okay, that makes sense. What's trap number 2?
Fringe FOMO scheduling. FOMO, of course, being fear of missing out. People get that giant fringe program. They see thousands of shows listed, and they get ambitious. They book 5 shows in one day.
I have done this. I am guilty. You look at the schedule and think, oh, they're just an hour long each. I can totally fit them all in. One at 1 p.m. and then one at 3 p.m. and another at 5 p.m.
But you forget that Edinburgh is a 3-dimensional city. It's hilly.
Yeah.
And in August, it is incredibly crowded. Getting from the Pleasance Courtyard to George Square might look like a 10-minute walk on Google Maps, but in reality, it's a 20-minute power walk, often uphill, weaving through thousands of people trying to hand you flyers.
And if you're late, even by a minute, they don't let you in.
Correct. Most fringe venues have a very strict no latecomers policy because the spaces are so small and intimate. If you book back-to-back shows, you will miss one of them. You'll be running up a cobblestone hill, sweating, stressing out. It's not fun.
So what's the fix?
The fix is a maximum of 3 shows a day, maybe 2 in the afternoon and 1 late at night. And you have to factor in generous travel time between them. Build in an hour to get from one to the other. That gives you time to walk, grab a drink, and use the bathroom.
Let's talk about gear. Because people always underestimate the weather. They see August on the calendar and they think summer.
August in Scotland is not summer in the Californian sense, or even the English sense. The must-have gear list starts and ends with real, proper waterproofs. And I mean a jacket and pants made with Gore-Tex or an equivalent waterproof breathable membrane.
So not just a windbreaker from a fast fashion store, not just a water-resistant jacket.
No. Water-resistant is a marketing term that means you will get very wet in Scotland. Scottish rain is different. It's often horizontal because of the wind. It's relentless. It finds every gap. You need waterproof trousers and a waterproof jacket with a good hood. It's not optional.
And what about on your feet?
Broken-in hiking boots, not brand new ones. The ground of the Highlands is often a bog. It's wet, spongy mud that can suck a flimsy sneaker right off your foot. If you show up in a pair of white Nikes, they will be brown and ruined within 10 minutes.
And one critical tech tip.
Offline maps. I repeat, do not rely on having 5G. In the city, sure, you're fine. But the second you get into the Highlands, your phone signal is gone. It's non-existent in the glens. If you are relying on Google Maps to load your hiking trail when you're halfway up a mountain, you are in serious trouble. Download everything, your trail maps, your tickets, your hotel reservations, before you leave the hotel Wi-Fi in the morning.
Okay, now, we promised earlier we'd talk about the biological threats. We have to address the elephant in the room, or rather, the tiny, terrifying fly in the room, the midges.
The Highland nemesis. The scientific name is Culicoides impunctatus.
For those lucky souls who haven't experienced them, describe the horror. Is it like a mosquito?
It's so much worse than a mosquito. A mosquito is a stealth hunter. It bites you once and leaves. Midges are swarm hunters. They are tiny biting flies, barely the size of a pinhead. Individually, they are nothing. But in July and August, they hatch in the billions.
Williams with a B.
Oh, yes. A single square meter of damp, peaty soil can hold 500,000 midge larvae. When they hatch on a damp, still day, they form literal clouds. If you walk into one, you aren't just bitten, you inhale them. They get in your eyes, your ears, your hairline.
They bite.
They don't bite like a mosquito. They have these tiny scissor-like jaws. They cut the skin to feed on the blood. It's incredibly itchy and leaves little red welts. They're not dangerous. They don't carry malaria or any disease, but they will ruin your life. They can psychologically break you. I've seen grown men nearly cry.
And the standard bug spray, the stuff with DEET, doesn't work on them, right?
They laugh at DT. The only thing that provides any real resistance is a local repellent called Smidge. It's formulated specifically for them. You have to buy it there in Scotland. And crucially, if you are hiking or even just standing outside in the evening, you need a midge net.
A net for your head.
Yes. A fine mesh net you wear over a hat. You look absolutely ridiculous. You look like a beekeeper who lost their suit. But when that swarm descends, you will not care what you look like. It is the only way to retain your sanity if the wind drops.
That's the key, right? It all depends on the wind.
Midges have tiny wings. They can't fly in wind speeds over about 5 miles per hour, so if it's breezy, you're safe. The second the wind stops, run. Get indoors.
Okay, let's pivot from biological threats to environmental ones. We mentioned the weather is a gear issue, but it's a serious safety issue, too.
This is incredibly important. The biggest danger in the Highlands isn't bears or wolves. There aren't any. It's hypothermia. Even in August. The danger is underestimating how fast the weather can change. You can start a hike in a sunny car park at 10 a.m. wearing a t-shirt. By noon, on the summit, you can be in a total whiteout with freezing rain and gale-force winds.
So the rule is always be prepared for winter, even in summer.
Always. Layers, map, a physical compass, and knowing how to use them. Don't rely on your phone battery, because the cold will kill it in minutes.
And one more comfort issue that feels weird to mention after talking about freezing rain, but that is heat.
It's the great paradox of 2026. Climate change has made summer heat waves more common and more intense in the UK. But here's the problem. 95% of housing and hotels in Scotland do not have air conditioning.
Right. The buildings are hundreds of years old. They're built with thick stone walls to keep heat in.
Exactly. They are thermal batteries. If you get a 25 or 30 degrees Celsius day, that's in the mid-80s Fahrenheit, your hotel room acts like a kiln. It absorbs that heat all day and stays hot all night. It can be stifling and impossible to sleep.
So you'd recommend packing a small, portable fan?
Honestly, yes. It might sound crazy to pack a fan for a trip to Scotland, but on those hot nights, it might be the thing that saves your sleep and your sanity.
Okay, we've successfully scared everyone. We've talked about bankruptcy, midge attacks, traffic jams, and hypothermia. So why on earth do we do it? Let's look at the highlights, the good stuff. What makes this trip worth all that struggle?
Because emotionally and visually, when it works, it is completely unmatched. Let's look at the Fringe first. For me, the highlight isn't the big TV comedians in the huge venues. It's the intimacy.
The small moments.
Yes. It's sitting in a tiny damp venue in a university basement that seats maybe 40 people. You're watching a show about something incredibly niche like a one-woman show about grief and the science of baking. And it's absolutely brilliant. You can hear a pin drop. You are 3 feet from the performer.
And then you spill out onto the street afterwards, and the city is buzzing.
And you grab a crepe or a drink, and you find yourself in a deep conversation about the meaning of life with total strangers from Australia at 2 in the morning. It's that shared humanity. It's a genuine intellectual high.
And in the Highlands, what's the counterbalance to that human connection?
It's the scale. It's the feeling of being small. It's moments like taking the car ferry to the Isle of Mull. You're standing on the deck, the wind is in your face, you're eating a greasy bacon roll from the cafeteria, and you see these enormous green mountains just rising straight out of the sea. It feels properly adventurous.
Or hiking into the Lost Valley in Glencoe. That's a personal favorite of mine.
Corga Pale.
Yeah.
It's where the MacDonald clan used to hide their stolen cattle.
Yeah.
You hike up this narrow, rocky gorge, and suddenly it opens up into this massive, flat, hidden valley that's completely surrounded by these towering, sheer peaks. The scale of the rock walls just makes you feel insignificant.
But in a good way, not in a bad way.
In the best possible way. It puts all your problems into perspective. The emails, the deadlines, the stress, it all feels very small and silly when you're standing next to a piece of geology that's 400 million years old. That is the feeling of the sublime.
But to get those sublime moments, you have to avoid the duds. You have to know what to skip. What are the major tourist traps we need to warn people about?
Okay, Trap A is the Jacobite steam train. This is the famous Harry Potter train that goes over the Glenfinnan Viaduct.
Oh, that's going to upset some fans. People travel literally halfway around the world just for that train ride.
I know, and it's a hard truth to deliver. But the reality of the experience is this. It is overcrowded, it is incredibly expensive for what it is, and the experience is often profoundly disappointing.
How so?
The windows frequently steam up because it's an old train packed full of damp people, so you can't even see the view you paid for. You spend the whole time fighting with other passengers for a good photo angle out the window and smelling other people's sweaty coats.
So you're on the train, but you miss the iconic shot of the train going over the bridge.
Precisely. The alternative is so much better. Drive to the Glenfinnan Viaduct yourself, park the car, hike up the little hill nearby, and wait. Watch the steam train go over the bridge. It's free. You get the iconic view of the train and the landscape, which is the shot you actually want.
Why?
And you aren't stuck inside a hot, crowded steam box.
Okay, that's a good tip. And tourist trap B.
Loch Ness.
Really?
But
A monster.
it's a masterclass in marketing, but a total failure in geography. Loch Ness is just a big, dark, long, and frankly, kind of boring lake.
Yeah.
The main road that runs alongside it is busy with trucks. The visitor centers are complete tourist traps, selling plastic Nessie toys made in China.
But people want to see a loch. It's a key part of the Scotland experience.
But there are hundreds of more beautiful lochs. Go to Loch Marie in the northwest. Go to Loch Awe with its ruined castle. Go to Loch Corruisk on Skye, which you can only reach by boat. They are silent, they are empty, they are dramatic, and they are hauntingly beautiful. Loch Ness is just a brand name. Skip it and go where the real atmosphere is.
Okay, that's some solid advice. Now, for the listener who is hearing all of this and thinking, I can't afford this, or I absolutely hate crowds, or I do not want to fight a logging truck on a cliff edge, what are the alternatives? Are there other ways to do Scotland?
We have 3 solid alternatives in the notes that give you the flavor without the August chaos. Option 1, the Glasgow and Arran combo.
Okay, why Glasgow instead of Edinburgh?
Glasgow is the grittier, friendlier, cooler cousin to Edinburgh. It has a world-class live music scene. The people are famously chatty and welcoming. And critically, it's about 30% cheaper across the board. Hotels, food, everything. You combine that city break with the nearby Isle of Arran.
And Arran is often called Scotland in miniature, right?
Exactly. A geological fault line runs right through the middle of it. So the north of the island is mountainous and rugged like the Highlands, and the south is rolling green hills like the lowlands. You get the mountains, the castles, the distilleries, the wildlife, all on one accessible island that's just an hour's ferry ride from the mainland. You don't have that deep, exhausting trek to the far north.
Okay, I like that. What's option 2?
Shoulder season. If you have any flexibility at all, do not go in August. Go in May or late September.
Why May specifically?
Statistically, May is often the driest month in Scotland. The days are incredibly long, it's light until 10 p.m., and crucially, the midges haven't hatched yet. They usually appear in force in early June. Plus, your accommodation will be half the price of August or even less.
The major downside is you miss the festival, though.
You miss the festival, that's the trade-off. But you get the entire landscape almost to yourself. It's a question of priorities.
And option 3?
The borders. Everybody looks north, they land in Edinburgh or Glasgow, and they immediately turn their back on the south of the country. But if you go south to the Scottish borders region, you find these incredible rolling hills, beautiful ruined abbeys like Melrose and Dryburgh, and absolutely zero crowds. It's a much more peaceful, pastoral, and gentle experience of Scotland.
All right, we've covered a massive amount of ground. Let's bring it all home with the final matrix, the verdict. Is this specific combo trip in August worth it? Let's break it down by traveler type. First up, the backpacker, the scrapper.
It's a hard famer, but honestly, it's probably leaning towards a beer. No, unless you were working there. If you're volunteering at the Fringe, you might get free accommodation, which changes the math. If you are a hardcore camper and you're staying in legal campsites, maybe. But otherwise, the daily burn rate of cash is just too high for a budget traveler to truly enjoy it without constant grinding financial stress.
Okay, what about the family with young kids? We're talking strollers, diapers, mandatory nap times.
A hard no. Not for August. Trying to push a stroller through the cobbled, crushed, crowded streets of the Royal Mile during the Fringe is a special kind of hell. You physically cannot move. And let's be honest, most young kids hate long scenic drives where they're just strapped in a car seat staring at grass and mountains. Come in July or October instead. It's much more family-friendly.
Makes sense. Now for our main group, the mid-range couple, the comfort seekers.
This is and this is a massive flashing neon asterisk, if you booked everything 9 months in advance. If you have your restaurants, your car, and your hotels locked in, it can be a romantic, cultural, life-changing trip. If you try to wing it, it leads to arguments, stress, and potentially a full-blown divorce in a rental car on the side of a single-track road.
And finally, the luxury traveler, the succession tier.
Absolutely, 100% yes. Scotland is practically designed for those who can buy their way out of friction. If you have a private driver, you don't care about the roads. If your concierge gets you fast-track tickets, you don't care about the queues. You get all of the beauty with none of the grit. It's a perfect destination for that.
So to summarize, what is the final word on Scotland in August 2026?
Scotland in August is high risk, high reward. It is beautiful, it is culturally exploding, but it is actively, almost maliciously, trying to kill your wallet and your patience.
It's a place that haunts you, though. I think that's the takeaway for me. If you want flow and ease and relaxation, go to Spain. Sit on a beach, have a sangria. It's lovely. But if you want a landscape that gets under your skin, that challenges you and stays with you forever, go to Scotland.
Just make sure you book dinner first.
Exactly. And I think that duality is the final thought. It's that strange, almost impossible friction between the most ancient, silent landscape on Earth and the most modern, frantic, loud, artistic chaos happening right next door.
Wow.
And it's the act of traversing that gap in that short space of time that really changes you as a traveler.
Well said. It forces you to be present in a way few other places do. That's the magic of it.
That's it for this deep dive. Respect the logistics, watch out for the midges, and we'll see you in the next one.